Hi guys, so today we'll be creating and configuring AWS EKS cluster for application deployment, and we'll be using EKS CTL and kubectl. If you don't know what those are, I would suggest you do a little research on them. kubectl is a command line interface for interacting with Kubernetes clusters, whereas EKS-CTL is a separate command line tool specifically designed for creating and managing Amazon EKS clusters. If you already have an existing EKS cluster and necessary credentials, configuration, setup, you can use kubectl directly to interact with your cluster. You don't need to install EKS for that purpose. On the other hand, if you need to create and manage an EKS cluster, then EKS-CTL is a helpful tool because it simplifies the process, which would otherwise be very difficult if you had to use kubectl. It provides a convenient way to create and upgrade and manage EKS clusters. That's talking about EKS-CTL now, which is built by Amazon, and it abstracts away some of the complexities that's involved in cluster creation. All in all, kubectl is for interacting with Kubernetes clusters, while EKS-CTL is specifically tailored for managing Amazon EKS clusters. Depending on your use case, you can choose to use one or both of these tools. Today, we'll be using both tools. The first thing we'll do is to create an IAM role that our EC2 instance will use to create this cluster. So let's go to IAM. Go to roles, create role, EC2. Next, we want it to have administrator access. Next, role name will be, let's just call it KHS cluster. Although that role, that permission I gave is too wide, but I just want to do it that way. When you are creating your own role, make sure you give it just the amount of privileges it requires. Don't give it more. Right now I'm giving it more. So create role, KHS cluster. I think my role is created. So if I go to view role, this is my role. Now we create our EC2. This shouldn't be hard to create. You go launch instance. What should we call it? Call it K8S. Let's just leave it as K8S. Change nothing. You can have a key if you want. What do I call it? Let me call it K8S. Alright, it's downloaded. Now we'll keep moving. Do we want a security group? Yeah. Create new security group. What else? Oh, you just have to be sure. Alright, everything is fine. Launch instance. Now we'll go see our instance, and we'll wait for this to not be pending and for the status check to be complete. I will pause the video now, and when that is done, I'll come back. Alright, yeah, our instance is ready, is running, and the status check has completed 2/2. Now you want to associate your I am role with your instance. You go to actions, you go to security, modify I am role, you come down here. What's the name of that I am role? I think it's K8S cluster. You put that there and you update your I am role. As soon as that is done, you come here and you connect. EC2 instance connect. That's what we're doing. So basically, this is SSHing into our EC2 instance. And the first thing you want to do when you get here is to check your AWS version. If it is anything version 2 point something something, then you're fine. If it is version 1 point something something, you're not fine. You have to update it. So I have my 2.9.19 here. All right. I'll be downloading the kubectl next, and the code for doing that is down here. This is it, kubectl. If you need these codes, make sure you mention them to me, and I'll put them in the description below or in the comment section. All right, so you paste that here, but you have to be careful. Sometimes those codes create their own spaces. All right, so that's the code for downloading your kubectl. Enter. So that's downloaded. All right, next we apply execute permissions to the binary of our kubectl. So that's the command there. Good. Now that that is done, the next thing to do is to copy the binary to a directory in your path. So this command helps you with that. And if you understand Linux, you understand this command. All right. To explain this code we just used, mkdir -p home/bin creates a directory named bin in your home directory, which is the $home. The -p option ensures that the command creates the directory only if it doesn't already exist. The cp./kubectl home/bin/kubectl copies the kubectl binary from the current directory, which is /kubectl, to the newly created home/bin directory and renames it as kubectl. Right? The exposed path is equal to path home/bin. That adds it adds the home/bin directory to your path environment variable, allowing you to run the kubectl command from anywhere in the terminal without specifying the full path. So by performing these steps, you are creating a directory, copying the kubectl binary into it, and updating your path variable to include the directory. What this enables you to do is to execute the kubectl command conveniently from any location in your terminal. All right, now that that is explained, the next thing you want to do is to ensure that your kubectl is installed. And there's a way you can check that by doing kubectl version short client. As you can see, they are showing us the version of kubectl we have over there. All right. Now that we have our kubectl, remember we're using both kubectl and EKS-CTL. So it's time to download the EKS-CTL. That is it. Sometimes when you copy these codes, they create some spaces that could affect your link. So you have to go close them. I think that has been downloaded. You have to repeat the same thing you did for the kubectl. Move the extracted binary towards user/bin. So this is what will move it to user/bin /bin. All right. Now that has been done, you get the version of your EKS-CTL. Do I have to copy that? Well, I can copy that. Now, if the installation worked, this shouldn't be a problem. Now we have our version 0.16.0. Then we can see the options we have with EKS-CTL by doing EKS-CTL help. And these are options. We can create, we can delete, we can enable get. We'll be using some of this, especially get. So that's that. Let me clear screen so it's it's free. Good. So the next thing we want to do is to provision an EKS cluster, which is the main goal of this video. So the next code I'll be posting or pasting is the most important code of this video. But before you create this cluster, make sure you're ready for it, because you can't stop once you create it. You would have to finish what you're doing and then delete the cluster, because it will cost you money. The cluster will create a lot of resources, and then you can't just stop halfway and be like, all right, I'll continue this project some other time. You have to finish it. So take a break now, and when you're ready for the little sprint we're about to have, you come back. All right. One of the things you have to ensure is this when you were creating your EC2 instance, hopefully you created it in US East 1, right? Because there's a reason for that. Now this is the code you use in creating your cluster. I'm going to explain the code. Just for now, just paste, and when it runs successfully, we can start explaining it. All right, I think that space again, I forgot to delete it. All right, it is running. But let me quickly explain this code as we wait for it to run. As you can see, EKS-CTL, you're using it to create a cluster. The name of the cluster is Counter, because I call it Counter because the app I plan to deploy on this cluster is called Counter. Although I'm not deploying the app on this video, I'll create another video where I'm deploying this Counter app on the cluster. And the region is US East 1. Our node group name is Standard Workers. Our node type is T3 Medium. We have 3 nodes. And we have a minimum 1 node, maximum of 4, and these nodes will be managed. So as you can see, our resources are being built. And if you go to your CloudFormation, because the EKS uses CloudFormation to provision resources, so we can come here, go to CloudFormation. As you can see, creation in progress. Yeah, a lot of things are being created. If you go in, you see the resources. being created. All right, NAT gateway, route tables, service role, VPC gateway, subnets. A lot of resources have been created as we speak. So that's that. And if you go to your EC2 instances, some instances will be created and added to this. If you go back to our code, remember we said at where is it? Minimum of 1 node, maximum of 4, but we have 3 here, so we'll have 3 instances created here. But that will be when this runs completely. Alright, this will take about 10 to 15 minutes to run completely, so I'll have to take a break and then I will come back. Yeah, so we're back. Apparently everything is done, and if you see this last statement here, EKS cluster counter in US East 1 region is ready. And if you go to the cloud formation, you see you have the cluster and then we have the workers. All right, once you see these two here, you're good to go. So next thing I think we should do is to go to the Elastic Kubernetes Service. You can see our counter cluster is here. There's an overview. I think these are, if you go through this, you'll see some of the things that have been created, but let's come over to compute. These are 3 standard workers, which are EC2 instances that you can find here. Let's refresh. These are standard worker nodes. All right. These are the subnets that were created, the VPC, basically. So that's that. So to check the status of our cluster, you use this command. Let's refresh our command line because I think it's having issues. So we use this command, right? AWS describe cluster, put the name of our cluster, the region, and then it gives us this. So name counter, it tells us that our cluster is active and it's giving us everything. It has a security group, it has 4 subnets, right? Everything about our cluster. Another way you can check this is give me a minute, let me clear this. So it's cleared, I suppose. Let me refresh again. Alright, so we'll paste this. So this gives you the status of your cluster, if it is active or if there is no cluster at all. So if you want to press your enter, it tells you it's active. You can also check for the worker nodes availability. Come here and check kubectl get nodes, and it tells you there are 3 nodes and they are all ready and they were created 15 minutes ago. It gives you the version as well. And so basically those are all you need to know for now about creating a cluster. And one more thing, you can also enable it to connect, enable the, what's it called now, the CTL, the kubectl configuration to connect with our cluster. And that's what this code is for. And all of this is in preparation for the deployment of your application. So let's go back, take this back, create a space, then go back. Let me remove get cluster, that's not supposed to be there. So right, oops, why do I have delete cluster over there? So this is all I need. EKS updates kube config name counter. So that's all I need. Yeah, added new context ARN dash. So basically what I did is I updated the kube config file that's necessary to configure and interact with my existing Amazon EKS cluster. This code allows me to authenticate and access Kubernetes API server for this specified cluster. Running this command will fetch the necessary credentials and cluster information from AWS and update that kube config file I was talking about earlier that's located in the kube/config on my virtual machine. The updated file will enable me use these tools like kubectl to interact with the EKS cluster. After running the command, you can verify the configuration by executing what kubectl what cluster-info. So let's check kubectl cluster-info. As you can see, cluster details is written there. Another code we can work is kubectl config view. So it gives us the configuration of our cluster. So that's that. With this done, our cluster has been created. Alright. That will delete our cluster and every resource that was created alongside with it. Alright. Make sure everything is deleted so that you don't lose your money, because if you don't delete them, AWS will bill you for them. Alright, please subscribe and see you later.